Hi guys, today we'll delve into the case of a girl who went to the laundromat near her home to do her laundry, but she never made it back home. Her mother reported her missing. Detectives found some disturbing clues and spoke to witnesses who shared chilling stories. But despite all this, the case remained unsolved for decades. It wasn't until 51 years later that investigators finally uncovered the truth. Debbie Lynn Randall was born on August 21, 1962, in Marietta, Georgia. She had two older brothers and grew up in a happy family. Debbie's parents split up when she was little, but her dad stayed close. Then, her mom got married to a man named Roy, who became her stepdad. They all lived in a small apartment building in a quiet neighborhood near a military base. Debbie was a happy kid, just like most others. She loved being around her friends and playing basketball. But Debbie also had a softer side. She really liked dolls. She had a ton of them and spent a lot of time playing with them. On January 13, 1972, Debbie was 9 years old. That evening, she had dinner with her family. After dinner, her mom sent her to the laundromat, like she had done many times before. Debbie was supposed to watch the laundry while it washed. Someone from her family would help carry the clothes to the laundromat and back home. The laundromat was just a few hundred yards away, right across the street, so her mom didn't worry too much. It was normal back then for kids to help with chores like laundry, and Debbie had even made friends with other girls at the laundromat. On that day, Debbie's mom wanted to send her older brother with her, but he was sick and wanted to watch his favorite TV show. So her mom asked her husband to take the laundry instead. Debbie went with him, carrying a box of detergent. Her stepdad dropped off the laundry, loaded it into 2 washing machines, and left. Debbie stayed to wait for the laundry to finish. After it was done, she was supposed to walk home and ask someone to help her pick up the clean clothes because she couldn't carry them all by herself. A little while later, Debbie's mom realized it was taking a long time. The clothes should have been done by now, but Debbie wasn't back. It was getting dark outside, so her mom and dad got worried and went to check on her at the laundromat. But Debbie wasn't there. The person who worked there said she left a while ago and hadn't come back. Debbie's mom started to panic. She and her dad, Roy, walked around the streets near the laundromat, looking for Debbie everywhere. They saw something strange. In the parking lot next door, by one of the cars, there was spilled laundry soap, detergent. Debbie had been carrying the soap, so her mom worried it might be hers. They searched the parking lot and everywhere around it, but couldn't find Debbie anywhere. Some friendly neighbors even came out to help, but still no sign of Debbie. With no luck, Debbie's mom knew it was time to call the police for help. The police arrived and looked closely at the spilled soap. It was just a few steps away from a parked car. On the car door, they saw some clear fingerprints way lower than the door handle, which seemed strange. The police thought someone might have grabbed Debbie there and touched the car by accident. They carefully took the fingerprints and sent them off to be examined by fingerprint experts. They also tried to find the owner of the car to see if the fingerprints belonged to them instead. The police had no other clues, so they started searching the streets for anything that might help. They talked to the laundromat worker, who said everything seemed normal. Debbie had been waiting for her laundry, then left with the detergent, probably heading home to get help carrying the clean clothes. The police soon found the first witness, whose account immediately changed the course of the investigation. A girl named Sandra, who was 12 years old, came forward. She and her friend were walking to the laundromat with some dirty clothes when they saw something awful. A man grabbed a girl in the street, right near the laundromat, and shoved her into his car. The girl screamed and fought back, but the man shut the car door, jumped in, and drove away. He almost hit Sandra and her friend. One of the girls yelled after him, but the car sped off. This completely changed the direction of the investigation. Even though Sandra witnessed the whole thing, she didn't understand the seriousness of it at first. She thought the man might have been the girl's dad, or maybe another family member, just grabbing a grumpy kid who wanted to stay out. Because of this, Sandra didn't tell anyone about it. But now, knowing Debbie was missing, she realized what she saw was crucial. She told the police everything. According to Sandra, the kidnapper drove a dark-colored pickup truck, possibly from 1957. She also described the man himself, young, white, with thick dark hair. He was dressed casually in a white t-shirt, jeans, and black work boots. Another piece of the puzzle came from a neighbor, a girl who lived in the same building as Debbie saw a dark pickup truck drive by earlier that evening. She even thought it was her uncle at first. But when the truck stopped and the driver stared right at her, she realized it wasn't him. This detail might help the police connect the dots. Even though Sandra thought it was just a kid being stubborn, she remembered the details well. She described the kidnapper as a white man, not young but not old either, with dark hair that wasn't super short. She also remembered a few more things. The man parked his car by their building, right next to where the spilled detergent would be later. The investigation took another turn when another witness came forward. A man who lived near Debbie's house was on his way to the hospital when a dark pickup truck, maybe a Dodge from the sound of it, almost caused a head-on collision before speeding off. The driver seemed to be in his 30s with dark hair, but the most important detail, the witness saw a girl in the car struggling to get away, while the driver held her captive with one hand. Hearing these accounts, the police knew for sure Debbie had been abducted. This shifted the focus from a missing girl to a search for a kidnapper and his victim. They put out the word about the suspect's car to all the police cars on patrol. Sketch artists drew a picture of the man based on what the three witnesses said. Some officers looked for similar trucks and checked who owned them, while others started big searches for Debbie. Every day, more people from the neighborhood and police from other towns helped out. In total, around 4,000 people joined in the search, which was the most ever seen in the city or even the whole state. The police also looked into people who knew Debbie, like her neighbors, men only, her stepfather, and even her biological father, but none of them seemed suspicious. Debbie's dad, who lived in the same city, found out about what happened at his job and immediately came to help look for her. The police also checked people who had been in trouble with the law before and lived near Debbie's house, but none of them seemed suspicious. Despite a huge search effort lasting over 2 weeks, they still hadn't found Debbie. Then, on January 29th, some students helping with the search were sent to look through a wooded area a few miles away. After hours of searching, one student spotted strange tracks leading off the path deep into the woods, like something had been dragged there. They followed the tracks for about 150 feet and found a body. They called the police right away. They quickly figured out it was Debbie Randall. She was still wearing the same clothes her mom described from the day she went missing, a purple dress and a dark blue hooded jacket. But her shoes were gone. She had socks on, but her new purple shoes, a Christmas gift she loved, were missing. Doctors carefully examined Debbie and determined she had been choked and also attacked. They found a single dark hair on her body, likely from the killer. Back then, they couldn't test hair like they can today. They looked at it closely and guessed it belonged to a man between 18 and 30 years old. Since they didn't have any other clues, the police took a closer look at Debbie's clothes. They checked them carefully, especially the dirt on them, to see if it could tell them anything about where she might have been taken. The police needed help figuring out where Debbie might have been taken. They called in a specialist who knew about rocks and dirt to work with their crime scene investigators. Together, they discovered 2 special types of dirt on Debbie's clothes. One kind was a rare clay only found in a mine less than 10 miles from the city. The other kind was from a different mine closer by, just 2 miles from where they found Debbie. The dirt on Debbie's clothes gave the police a clue. They found 2 special types of dirt that weren't from around where they found her body. This led them to believe the kidnapper didn't kill her right away. He likely drove her somewhere else first, maybe even out of town, which is where he probably hurt her. Then he drove her to a different spot, the one with the second type of dirt, where he killed her. He then dragged her body into the woods and left her there. The fact that Debbie wasn't killed where they found her body helped support this theory. If she had been killed there would have been signs of a struggle. The tracks leading into the woods also showed Debbie was likely already dead when she was dragged there. The clay mines were way out of the way and hard to get to, so the police figured the killer might know those areas well. They talked to the people who ran the mines, and one supervisor confirmed their hunch. It seemed unlikely someone who didn't know the area well could have taken Debbie there. Even the miners themselves sometimes got lost. The police checked out everyone who worked at both mines, looking for someone who matched the description or drove a similar truck, but they didn't find anything. They also compared the fingerprints on the car near the laundromat to all the suspects they had, but that didn't lead anywhere either. Everyone in the city was really upset when Debbie was cruelly killed. Thousands of people came to say goodbye at her funeral. The police wanted to catch the person who did it really badly, but they just couldn't find any new clues. No matter how hard they tried, they kept running into dead ends. The case stayed unsolved for years, even though the police checked out a lot of people who might have been involved. For the main detective on the case, Maurice Nix, this wasn't just any investigation. Debbie's murder became a huge part of his work life. He was only 19 when it happened, and he'd been part of the search and investigation from the very beginning. Over the years, Nix chased down all sorts of leads, looked closely at different suspects, and finally narrowed it down to 4 men he thought were most likely responsible. When a new system for storing DNA information was created by the FBI, scientists were able to get the criminal's genetic code from the hair found on Debbie. They put this code into the system, but there wasn't a match. This meant the killer probably hadn't been caught for any other serious crimes. Or maybe DNA wasn't collected from criminals back then. In 2015, things changed. It had been 43 years since Debbie was killed, but detectives decided to take another look at her clothes using new scientific tools. The clothes had been kept in a special storage place all this time, and experts found some tiny bits of material from an unknown man on them. Unfortunately, because it was so old, the information they got from this material wasn't complete. In 2018, Debbie's mom gave an interview. It had been years since Debbie's murder, and her mom had always hoped the police would find the killer. Debbie's mom couldn't stay in their apartment anymore because everything reminded her of her daughter. She moved away, but the unsolved case kept hurting her. All she wanted was for the case to be closed before she passed away. Sadly, that didn't happen. Just a few weeks later, Debbie's mom died of cancer at 78 and was buried next to her daughter. Sandra, who saw Debbie get taken when she was 12, also spoke out. She always felt terrible about it and wished she could have done something different. She even said she would have rather been taken herself than Debbie. In 2019, the local police department received additional funding, and the police were able to have Debbie's clothes tested again with a more powerful technique. This time, they got a complete set of the killer's DNA, but it still wasn't in the FBI database. Debbie's dad also spoke out. He said he thought about Debbie every single day and kept a box of her photos, hoping to see her again someday. Sadly, he passed away in 2022, shortly after the interview. With only the DNA as a clue, the detectives decided to try something new in 2022. They contacted a special company in Florida that uses a fancy DNA analysis method to track down family members. The police gave them all the evidence they had collected over the years and waited for an answer. Experts created a genetic profile of the mystery man and started searching for his family in those online databases where people send their DNA info. Since relatives share bits of their DNA, the idea was to find matches with people who had already uploaded their information. Even faraway relatives might have some overlap. After sifting through thousands of possibilities, the detectives found a family living in Marietta that seemed connected in 2023. They reached out, and the family agreed to give DNA samples. The tests confirmed a close relative match to the killer's DNA. With this new info, the investigators dug deeper into this family tree and zeroed in on one person, a man named William Rose, as the most likely source of the DNA evidence. But there was a twist. William Rose had died by suicide back in 1974, only 2 years after Debbie's murder. The detectives wouldn't let this stop them from finally solving the case. They got a court order to dig up his remains and take a direct DNA sample. After 51 long years, the police finally had their answer. William Rose was Debbie's killer. No one had ever suspected Rose before. Back then, he was just a 24-year-old man. It turned out his family actually lived in the same building as Debbie's. This means he probably saw her around a lot. The police think maybe he saw Debbie leaving the laundromat that night and decided to follow her. They believe he might have pulled into a parking lot nearby, grabbed her, and then drove north, possibly towards an abandoned quarry in that direction. It seems like Debbie's murder might have been an impulsive act. Interestingly, there's no record of him ever committing any other crimes. The case finally came to a close, but Debbie's parents weren't alive to see it. Her older brother, Melvin, was the only one left. He attended the press conference where they revealed who the killer was. Melvin thanked everyone who had worked on his sister's case for so many years. He said he wished his mom could have been there, but at least she was now with Debbie in heaven. Share your thoughts on this story in the comments section, and don't forget to press the like button if you enjoyed my video. Thank you for watching.